Welcome to the Vibe With Us podcast. This podcast has been created to build a platform where voices are heard, stories are shared, and vision is defined. In today's episode, we're interviewing Dave Shannoni. Tune in for a fun conversation where we get to meet Dave and hear his thoughts on topics that young adults wrestle with in our time. Some of this content has played a significant part in his position as associate and young adults pastor at New Life Church in Novato, California. What's up, Dave?
What's going on?
Bro, it's exciting to be here right now. It's exciting for this to be episode 1 of Vibe With Us podcast. Now, before we even roll, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about your journey on, who is Dave Shannoni and how did we get here right now to this moment?
Well, that story is really deep.
We're trying to keep this episode to a certain time.
But that's going to take 6 hours.
All right,
but I'll give you, no, I'm just kidding. I'll give you like the fast version. My wife and I, Katie, were living in Mendocino County, but we're actually both from the Bay Area originally. My parents were pastors in San Francisco, so I grew up the first part of my life there. And then my dad was also in the Army, so we kind of moved a lot. And but the Bay Area is a place in my heart that always will feel like home, because I think that first part of my life, it just kind of stuck where going across the bridge feels like I'm going home every time. Because living there in the Presidio, every time I go there, I feel like I'm going to my house, and I'm seeing all the buildings that have changed a little bit. They're different stores now, but it just feels like home. And we lived in Mendocino County for 5 years in the middle of nowhere. It was like living in Alaska, but California. We're like,
I actually don't know where Mendocino County is.
So we're in Marin County. North of us is Sonoma County. The next county on the coast is Mendocino County.
All right.
So it's above Sonoma County and it's on the coast. It's really beautiful. It's like
big forests,
a wilderness, just known for farming and surfing and cool stuff like that. That's right. And that's actually a dream come true to live there. So. Yeah, but we actually started coming here from there, which took us about 3 hours.
That's it. So you're coming to this church in Novato, California, commuting 3 hours.
Yes.
That is insane.
Yeah.
That's
there's more to that story, but I'll go. It's actually part of the story was that God wanted to build my faith, and I knew that. So there's a reason why he was asking that of me, and I knew it, and I just obeyed him. And it's kind of funny because now here we are.
That's why it's interesting you're saying that, because I obviously, and I don't know if every listener that's listening to podcast has heard the message from this past Sunday that you preached at New Life, but something that stuck with me was you talking about and it seemed like it was off script, even you saying, don't move, right? Like kind of you went into this word and it seemed like it was specific for people maybe. Like this idea right now where, I think a lot of people are considering, man, the grass is greener, right? There's something else there. But you saying I was commuting 3 hours to go to church sounds like not the green route to go, right? It's not like literally you're driving a car and it's not green for 3 hours every Sunday. Yeah. But somehow that was the direction you felt the Lord telling you to move in.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I feel like it's almost our nature to try to find something better. And we're almost taught that that's a good thing. That's a good mentality to look for better things. But what I've learned through having a relationship with God is that if we actually sometimes stop and water the ground that we're standing on, it turns green. Yeah. And if we sow some seed into that ground, it's going to grow. Yeah. And I think I needed that in my life to walk out and have a deeper relationship with God that, to be honest, I didn't even know existed. Until I was like, wow, God, there's so much more of him that we don't even realize. So, and I know that sometimes you're called to go places too. Like you're called to leave. Like for me, that was a 3 hour drive. I was technically leaving the place, but you got to understand that was a dream where I was living. I loved where I was living and wanted to live there forever. I actually would tell my wife that I could live here for the rest of my life. And it's funny how God brought me back to here, the Bay Area, which I feel like there's a lot of people here who are from other places, and now might be facing like, should I be here? Because it's not easy to live. Totally. It's expensive, and we pay high taxes, all that stuff, and wages don't really equal housing costs. But it's interesting how there's a way. There's always a way.
I think it's a valid question, and as you were describing that, I was like thinking about actually when I was a kid. my mom, we would commute almost an hour for church.
Wow.
And like literally like we knew people along that whole drive. We knew churches along the whole drive, but my mom was just like, this is the church we're supposed to be in. And it was a small church. There was like 30 people in the service every Sunday, but we would drive across several towns, right? And it's like, I feel like there's a lesson there, from the older generation even. It's like, if the Lord's telling you got to do something, as much as it doesn't make sense, doesn't add up, doesn't look right.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do,
It
as
often
inconvenient as it is.
Doesn't make sense. Right? If you look in the Bible, there's full of stories of God asking people to do things that in the natural don't really make sense. Sometimes, that's kind of why I was stepping out in faith and driving that far to come here. One, there was a presence here. Well, I visited the church when a friend of mine, Johnny Chai, was speaking on a Friday. It was a Good Friday service. Yeah. And it's kind of funny. There was like a bunch of other churches here. So there was, I think, like 1,000+ people.
There's a lot of people.
And there was no seats. And guess what? Though I was dressed in like ranch clothes. And I did not expect that at all. But there was only 2 seats in the house. And they were right next to Caleb and Rachel, who are senior pastors. So I was sitting literally right next to them. And I felt, I'm going to be honest, I felt so uncomfortable. I wanted to run out. But God was very clear. He's like, first of all, I had to support my best friend, because he was sharing a little testimony, but I'm sitting next to like Pastor Rachel in like my ranch clothes. I stood out so much. I'm 6'5". I'm a big dude, and here I am in Marin County, sitting in the front. Yeah. And it was so funny.
Think about a route not looking or feeling right.
Yeah.
Like right in that moment, you're like, Lord, what am I doing?
In the natural, this didn't make sense. Yeah. Like in reality, I wanted to run, but I didn't. I
love that. I was there that night. I didn't get to meet you.
No.
I was there, but I didn't meet you.
Yeah,
and I feel like if I would have seen you, I would have been like, dude, what is this dude wearing ranch clothes doing on the front row next to Pastor
wouldn't blame
Caleb?
you, man. I don't know what I was thinking. I just hopped in my car and drove down to support my buddy. But what happened that night was there was an encounter with God that I haven't had in years. I couldn't believe it. It was during worship. I almost fell flat on my face. That's the other part. Wow. We see that in church sometimes. People fall out. I grew up in an era where that was really common. And I was one of those people that was like, I'm never doing that. I'm not going to fall. But it was funny because that night, I told Johnny, I can't stand, man. I can barely stand. I'm gonna fall out. And the Lord's overwhelming me. And the Lord spoke to my heart that night. And he said, to come here. He said, I want you to come here. I'm going to do something here, and you're going to be a part of it. And he also told me, which didn't make sense. This extra didn't make sense. But I told my best friend it. He said, I want you to stand with Caleb and Rachel, and I want you to help them and be like a bodyguard to them, which is actually one of the jobs I've done in the natural, but he wanted me to do it in the spirit.
Wow, dude.
And now we work together.
That's amazing. I did not know
bosses.
That.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I feel like I know you, but then right now I'm uncovering items I did not know about you.
Yeah, I don't really, that's the beautiful thing about this is like we get to learn about each other.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And I feel like, we've joked around about this, and it kind of is a segue from what you're talking about. What do you feel are some assumptions people make when they meet you? They're like, this guy must be this, must do this. And then to add on to that, which ones are right and which ones are wrong. Right?
Yeah.
So I for sure would have judged you if I saw you in the ranch clothes. Not in a bad way. I'd just be like, man, what is this dude doing? Yeah. He's coming from like the boondocks out here right now. Who is this guy?
I know. It's awesome. It's actually kind of the story of my life is always stood out as a big dude. Played sports my whole life, played football, played college football. So I've always stood out. Yeah. But in life, I often get asked if I've ever been arrested. It's like the number one question. I don't know why.
Is it right or is it wrong? No,
yeah, seriously. Let me just say this right now. No, I have never been arrested. No, I have never been in prison.
Do we do a background check on this guy?
You can fingerprint me all you want. No, but for some reason, I get asked that quite a bit, believe it or not, and it's really, I think it's cool. These type of things don't bother me at all. Yeah, but that would be, I think, number one.
Okay. That's
Okay.
awesome. So it's
Yeah.
not, that's a false assumption.
It's a
to
fault.
think.
It's not true. I've actually played into it, though. I have to be honest. I started
You've
joking about
misled
that.
people.
And so if you hear rumors, they're not true. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
man.
And I got to take
Okay.
responsibility because
Okay.
I thought it was funny at first. And then it got like, okay, I'm sorry.
Oh man, that's so awesome. I love that. I know we've joked around about that. So that's why I was excited to ask that question.
Yeah.
Here's another question. And on that same line of like, I'm excited. I'm going to get to know you more. And I can say like our church here, our community has been insanely blessed by you.
Oh man.
It's been amazing for you to jump in to lead pockets that felt like momentum was starting to kind of roll out, especially. And you were able to kind of come in and like not restructure, but like just bring back that momentum, that push has been amazing. I mean, to get to serve alongside you, but also serve with you as my pastor, as my young adult pastor is exciting.
Man, you're going to make me cry.
It's been all, don't cry,
Yeah,
dude.
I'm trying not to cry.
Cut the cries.
Cut this out. Cut.
But here's what I want to hear, because I don't think I know this story.
Okay.
What is your salvation story?
Ooh.
When did God become real to you? And if those are two different stories, awesome. If they're the same story, what's that moment, right? If someone said, "When did you get saved?"
Okay.
Boom.
Twice.
Twice.
I'll say this twice.
Didn't just get saved
No, I got,
once.
isn't that funny? But legitimately twice. So I grew up in a church, right? Grew up in church, but grew up in San Francisco.
Okay.
And church wasn't the mainstream culture where I grew up.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a Christian home. And when I was younger, I remember encountering God. My parents were saved in a revival that was called the Jesus Movement.
Yeah.
And so as a little boy, I experienced these things that were like supernatural things that I just thought were normal. Right. That, seeing things, miracles, people getting healed, feeling the presence of the Lord, that is so
awesome.
unbelievable. And so that was my normal. Right. Yeah. Then you grow up and you come numb to those things. And then all your friends who aren't Christians say, well, that's not real. You only believe that because of this. And you only believe that because your parents told you this.
Because now you're clashing with that counterculture.
Exactly.
It's telling you all that's not even.
It's not
right.
real.
Wow.
It's all in your head, and there's science to prove it. All, that type of stuff. And I grew up with a lot of that growing up in the Bay Area, but I stayed faithful, and especially even in high school. Like I never drank, never smoked, and never did any of that stuff. But when I was 18, I kind of like had a hard time when my youth pastor left.
Okay.
And I was in a zone where I'd served in the church my whole life. I'd seen cool stuff in the church, but I got hurt by people.
Wow. Yeah.
And then you compare people to God, and you compare, you're like the people, the church, and things like that. So I got like hurt really bad, and I got burned out, and I disliked church. And those voices that had been, just like somebody can speak life into somebody, all those years of people speaking doubt and death, or their frustrations or whatever their stuff that wasn't really fruitful, that also had like an anchor in me that I didn't even know was there.
Yeah.
And I had resentment towards people in church and God.
Yeah.
And so I actually had a time in my life where I didn't really have people that could pour into me. And when I was left to myself in college, bro,
that was
yeah, I went a different direction.
completely different chapter.
Yeah. And that's the part two, or that's the,
Because you went into college, right? This is after you've grown up with what seemed very normal, seemed very right. And then you experienced people questioning that, telling you this is not right. But you at least had still that structure around you.
I had the foundation.
Yeah. You had the foundation.
Couldn't shake. I have encountered things that no one can explain.
Yeah.
I've seen rooms of hundreds of people fall
Personal
flat. And
stories. I've experienced, right? Like
I had
first
experienced
person.
that, and that was an anchor. And I'll just have to say this: I never did not believed in God. But people became what I was looking at versus actually having a real relationship with God. It became about me serving and doing things for
very emotion driven,
very emotion, very, the purpose wasn't relationship. There was no relationship. Yeah. And it's amazing how fast you can fall into traps, man. And I definitely fell. I fell bad. And so I've had people who are like, oh, they feel nervous to tell me stuff they do. And I'm like, brothers and sisters, let me tell you something today. trust me, I will not judge you.
Yeah.
I will not judge you. And I've had to do, I've done some stuff, that wasn't good, because it's like, imagine never doing that. And then all of a sudden doing that, trying things. And also I was playing college football. Mm-hmm. And those stories are not fake about what athletes do in college.
Yeah.
And what I told myself is, I want to have fun. I want to have fun for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
I've served God, and it's not fun. My friend said it's not fun, even though I had fun. Mm-hmm. I'd had amazing things. I was listening to those voices who were saying the opposite, and I told myself, well, I'm missing out on something. I've never tried drugs. I've never tried alcohol. I'm missing out in life because of that. And that's why, and then I go in that direction where I tried drugs and alcohol and partied and,
that's such a real challenge. I mean, that is what, like, whether or not you grew up in church even, but, for a lot of us that did, I grew up in it. That first time you experience a moment where you have more control over your life, and you have less of those voices that have for a long time supported you and given you the foundation you needed. Yeah. Those voices are gone. Now you've got this whole new set of voices. Yeah. Everyone's dealing with that temptation of, like, man, I need to go, like, I don't even know what to say. I don't have an opinion on all this experience. Yeah. Let me go try it. Yeah. Right? Everyone's experiencing that at some point in their lives. It's insane.
It's true. And I feel like for people who've grown up in that almost know better than the people that didn't. Yeah. Like, I have relatives and stuff that were drank and partied and did drugs. I was around it all, it wasn't like that. It was, but there's a thing I believe that happens, that the enemy kind of plants a seed of, you're missing out if you don't do this. And there's an old saying Donnie Moore used to say, he's an old evangelist. That's just a powerful dude. Awesome. Spoken to my life with deeper stories, but he used to say, sin will take you further than you want to go. It'll keep you longer than you want to stay, and it will cost you more than you want to pay. And I testify to that being true.
Wow.
Say
that one more time. That was
Sin
legit.
will take you further than you want to go. It will keep you longer than you want to stay, and it will cost you more than you want to pay. And it is true. It is true.
I'm like getting goosebumps from you saying that.
It's so true. And I had to find, and for some reason I found that out the hard way. I was going to say I had to. I didn't have to, but I did. I did.
That's what I was about to ask you. Do you feel like, I feel like young adults, myself included, in waves, we think, we start thinking that you need to experience, right? You need to fall flat on your face and learn that lesson. But you just said it's like, you don't have to.
No, you don't.
You don't have to. There's an opportunity, right, for an older generation or someone else, even if it's a peer that has gone down that road, to tell you, dude, trust me, you don't want to. Yeah. You don't want to, right? And it's like, and I feel like it's even a picture of God, right? From up here, up top, high level, sees the whole story. And he, right, as a father saying, you don't want to. You don't want to go here. You don't want to go there. Yeah. Right? Out of complete loving kindness, out of complete grace and and the goodness of his heart, right? His plans for us. Yeah. He's telling us that. And I think we're surrounded by peers. We're surrounded by older generations that are ready to tell us, like, hey man, you don't need to go there. Yeah. I can tell you that. Yeah. And I don't know. That's just something I feel like, us younger generation are missing. Either tapping into that, because I think it's available. I think we have the older generation that's ready to pour into us, and we're just not tapping into the fullness of that.
Well, I mean, I'm like thinking, I'm like, I know. I'm 35 years old. If anybody's wondering that, I'm 35 years old. That's another thing. People think I'm older, like a lot older. I know I look my age for sure, but I feel young at heart. Growing up, I looked older. I had a beard when I was literally 10 years old.
Did you have gray in the beard already when you were 10?
I had gray hair when I was 15.
Yeah. So people would start assuming
they thought
30.
I was older. So it's like, I actually always hung out with people much older than me. That's cool. Which was such a benefit to my life. But I never thought that I would hang out with people younger than me. And that is such a benefit to my life. Yeah. I get life from hanging out with the younger people, man. They totally have, honestly, it's just one of the reasons why I love being in young adults ministry is because I get just as much out of it from the Lord.
That's real.
It doesn't matter if they're hurting, Kyle. It doesn't matter if they're battling with addiction, anything, going through that. It's like, there's so much life that comes from people that God has, put in us.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say something you touched on. We're talking about how God is there the whole time looking at us, and he's saying, you don't have to go through that.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing is as you're going through that, he loves you just as much as when you were serving him or not, or whatever, being a good person, whatever you want to call it. He loved you just as much.
That's really good.
And because that was a battle that I had in those moments of when I came back to him.
Mm-hmm.
I had just, had a dramatic thing happen, and I had an encounter with him. And when I was ended my 19, starting 20s, and that's when I went all in. And went all in. And but
that's
battled.
A bigger story.
That's a bigger story. I won't go into that. But I just wanted to say, because I think some people battle with this.
Yeah.
When you walk away from him, or maybe you're running from him right now, and you've never even, accepted him in your heart or have him in your life, and you don't know that you're on like a spiritual journey, but and you're running and you're looking. Yeah. You got to know something. He loves you. He loves you so much. Yeah. You may not be able to comprehend that love right now, but why don't you just give him a chance to love you? Yeah. And he will. And I lived in the condemnation of, man, I knew the truth, and I still walked away. I felt unworthy of it. And I feel like that's why for years, I battled with that for years, that guilt. Yeah. And there's a reason why they refer to the devil as the accuser, because he sits there and he accuses you of things. He accuses you of being not good enough, and he tries to tell you who you are.
That's his voice.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if anything, taking that, what you just said, right? He's the accuser. That is what he's coming to do. He's coming to rob, right? Destroy, to kill. That is his goal. So if a voice comes with that tone, that's the voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
That's how I got through it. I literally was like, okay, I'm going to be like a crazy person. Whatever I feel, I'm going to do the opposite.
Wow.
So, when I started coming to church,
that voice had become so predominant.
It became what you start to listen to. Yeah. And then people are like, well, that's your intuition. That's whatever. That's good. Because sometimes it seems that way. But when I started coming to church here, I almost didn't come to church here because I grew up in Marin County, and I know how Marin County is. And I love Marin County. Yeah. But I felt like, man, who am I coming in here, this looking country dude, even though I'm a city boy, trust me, my cousins that are from the country, I'm a city boy, trust me. Like they I can't get away from it, but I looked like a country dude. Who's this big dude he doesn't really look like he'd fit in. And the enemy would tell me that all the time, like, you need to leave. But then, I literally would be like, I'm going to do the opposite of what I'm hearing, because I know who I am now. I know what my identity is in God, and I know what he's called me to do. So I will step in that, and I will walk in it. Yeah. And I feel like if you're like a person who's looking for him, do the opposite of that voice that's saying, get out of this place. Nobody likes you. Nobody's going to talk to you. Yeah. You don't fit in here, because you do fit in. Yeah. And that's what I want to tell young people is, I don't care what you look like. I don't care who you are, what you're doing in your life. You belong with God. Yeah, because he loves you. And we will love you. Like, we're gonna love you. I'm like gonna hug you like a Papa Bear. Yeah. And we want to pour into your life. We want you to come know God in a real way and be in his presence and experience that for real. Yeah. Maybe for the first time, maybe you've experienced it before, maybe you don't know if that's real or not. Whatever it is, you will encounter God. Yeah. I know you know too, bro. Yeah. From when we do worship, man, the presence comes in, and there's something special about New Life. There is a presence here that is building, and there's a momentum that's happening, and it's called revival.
It's called revival. Bro. And Dave, we're gonna have to do like a part 2, part 3, 3.2, whatever. We'll have to figure it out, because there's so much more content. Like, everything we're talking about, I'm like, there's more questions here. There's more questions there. And I think the listener right now is like, there's more questions here, more questions there. And but for today, right, I feel like the things you touched on voices, and I think that's like its own topic we could expand on forever. But the importance of like figuring out which voice you're gonna feed, which voice you're gonna let set your vision, almost is what it is, right? Yeah. We talk about that. We talk about, right, like the generational pass down of instruction. Like, people have gone through these steps. Yeah. They've gone through this path. Listen, don't go that way. We've talked about, even if you go that way, there's grace. Even if you go their way, there is, right? The GPS will reroute. Yes. And will bring you back. So all these things are like key elements that I think you carry in what you bring to young adults ministry for sure. 100%.
man.
I don't think I know that is something you carry, but as we wrap up, expand a little bit on why young adults and what is it that you feel like the Lord is trying to do now with young adults more than ever?
You know, when you ask that, I get emotional. I apologize for it because my heart really just has a burden for young adults. My heart, I know that I may not like in the natural look like the young adult type of pastor in
People
Marin
assume
County.
you're just like hard heart. No
I'm
emotion.
like, this dude just got out of prison. You know, what's his story? But honestly, the love that I have for this generation, God has put in my heart.
Wow.
And the desire to help them not experience the things that I went through and to help heal things that even I haven't gone through. But if I can be there and a part of their life to help them experience and know God and have a real relationship with God, I'm going to tell you, man, because I went through where I didn't believe that was possible in my life. And now I want everybody to have that. Who wouldn't? If you have a real relationship where you encounter God, like think about it. You want it. And I want everybody to know who God is because I believed the lies for years and I experienced pain and I just really want people to know him. And if you knew it, like when you do, it's like, oh my, I want everybody in the world to know what this is. I want everybody to know the truth because this is amazing. And that's really my heart is to just love people the way God loves us you know, like that's really what we're supposed to do. And I try my hardest to love people the way he's loves me, loves you, loves everybody, you know?
That's amazing. I mean, and I feel like young adults, we might not know how to put the words for what that need is, right? To have an environment, to have a community, to have a voice that is preaching that is saying that is suggesting that. It's like, hey, here's a route, right? Here's definition for this spiritual journey you're trying to seek, right? Here's the actual route. Here's what you're looking for. I think that's really special, bro. And I'm excited to see how that's going to impact our community and how that's going to drive revival, how that's going to be pivotal, I think, in revival really like picking up pace.
Amen.
Picking up pace like never before. We're getting close on time here.
Okay.
But we definitely are going to need to do a follow-up. For sure. Vibe with Us podcast is here to stay. There's going to be more of it. Maybe a quick little plug. What does Vibe Young Adults look like right now? Pandemic or not? Like what's going on right now?
We are working so hard to create a place where people can get poured into. And whether that's through the internet, online, which we have, we also want to create safe environments where people can still gather in a safe way outside. And so that's what we've been working on is creating those type of spaces where we can still gather, but outside safely so that we can get to know people and minister to them and love on them. So we have events coming up that we can post, but depending just, on this podcast, those things might change. You know,
what's the best way to stay connected?
The best way to stay connected, honestly, the best way is to look on our social media right now. That's probably how you'll find out the most information about us.
That's Vibe Tribe.
That's Vibe Tribe. And then also our Instagram is Vibe Tribe and YA. There we go.
Vibe Tribe YA.
Vibe Tribe YA. And so we're going to be trying to do multiple things every month. So we do 2 things a month right now. And both of those things are outside for now.
Cool.
And we do fellowship. Sometimes we do message. We do hikes. We do a lot of outdoor stuff just because we're in a pandemic right now. And then as soon as we're allowed to meet inside, we'll be really taking off more.
So there's plenty to tap into.
There's actually a lot. We have life groups too in the church where we have groups that you can hang out in a small group of people.
Go surfing on Saturdays.
We go surfing. We have a group that goes hiking every Saturday. We have a life group. If you don't know what that is, that's a group where you get together and you get to fellowship with somebody, or not just somebody, but people, a group of people. And it's worked out perfectly because it kind of keeps people in their little cohorts.
That's awesome.
So it's been really fruitful. And also, if you want to come in or you need to talk to somebody, we have that available. We have counseling. We just have, if you need to talk, if your mental health isn't doing well, we have people that you can talk with that can help with that.
Cool.
And so those are the things that we're doing right
resources.
now. Yeah. And
That's
we're working hard to do more, and we actually want to hear what people want. So if you write in the comments or wherever you're watching this, write something that you would like, and we will try to do that. Because we want to hear this. We want to hear the voice. Yeah. We want to hear the vibe voice. We want to hear the young people's voice.
The voice. I'm sorry. We should definitely, I mean, content ideas. I think everyone should take note, right? Instagram, Vibe Tribe YA is the best way to stay connected. But if you also want to go to newlifenovado.com, right? Just jump on there and you'll see the latest going on in the church, and you can go to the young adult section, see what's going on over there as well.
Yes, you can.
Legit.
Yes, you can.
That's a wrap, bro. Okay. Thank you so much, Dave.
All right. Kyle's number is...
What? Awesome. Y'all have a good one. See ya.